Steve was probably the best host that show has had. There's people who say that I'm their favorite, but in my personal opinion, man, there was Sinbad, there was Mark Curry, there was Kim Coles did it. I love for a taste. Rick Aviles was the first host. He did a stint, and Tony Rock came back and did like the reboot, and myself. But I really feel like it's not about the success for Steve Harvey. Really, because I worked hand in hand, and that's how I got the gig. I was supposed to come and watch a couple of veteran comics do the warm-ups for the Apollo. And anybody who doesn't know what warm-up is, when Steve is in the back, getting his wardrobe together, getting ready to come out to the stage, there's a comic who gets the crowd lathered up. You know what I mean? Keeping everybody busy. So I was supposed to come watch a couple guys who canceled for whatever reason, whether it was shows or some other family situation. So instead of me watching them the Friday and Saturday night, and I do Sunday, they were like, "Hey kid, we got to use you for Friday. We'll tell you exactly what to do, and you'll be all right." And I was better than all right. I was so good that they were like, "Can you come back tomorrow? The job is just yours." And, I'm sure Steve had a say in it. The producers had a larger say, you know what I mean? But, I became just a soul and a soul warm-up guy. And Steve, would tell me what to do. Like, "Hey, don't razz the crowd. I don't want you getting into it." People so I couldn't make fun of people, which I never did anyway. So I would just play along with the band, do other things, bring people on stage to sing or up to the front of the stage. I was just so into the job. I mean, just imagine, I'm 23 years old. I got all the energy in the world, you know what I mean? So I can go like an energizing bunny. So it just kind of worked me into that, which shortly became a situation where they had the McDonald's Apollo Kids Tour, where we discovered the likes of Jasmine Sullivan and others. And Steve didn't want to do the tour. And as a young person, I couldn't understand it. I was like, "You don't want to go and stay at the Holiday Inn for free? You don't want $300 for you don't want $300 a weekend for per diem, bro?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I got older, I was like, thank you God for Steve not wanting to do everything, because honestly, that was the gig that showed people that I had the capability to really come in and step in after Steve left the show. Yeah. So that's how it all came to be. But it was a very rough and tumultuous 3 years with Steve. It was pretty bad, to say the least.
It was bad.
Oh yeah, it was bad because and I hate to say that we never got along. And, Steve probably sees stuff like this or whatever, but like, I know that there's still tension. We did Netflix 25, big reunion and all of us. And I'm talking about Sed will call me from across the room. "Yo, Rudy." DL, same thing. Young fella, call me Young Bull. We hug it out. When I see Steve, I gotta go up to him like, "Hey, Steve." And he looks at me like, "Yeah, you still here? Like, man, you still alive?" Like, it was that kind of situation. Steve and I didn't have the greatest situation. We never, like I said, I did everything he asked me to do. I bought 2 suits that I couldn't afford, but I bought some shirts to go Mitch Magic, whatever, until they start thinking I was security with the black suit. They were like, "Sir, we're gonna go." I said, "I'm not worth it like that. Make just see me on stage like Steve Harvey part 2, point 1, point A, whatever." But I did it, and Steve never once, there was some times, and I'm going to talk about that, but Steve was mostly like to himself and his crew, never ate afterwards, never said, "Hey, I'm doing this and want you," or "Let me help you with this and that." And I mean, I was kicking butt like 3 years as and plus, like I said, I'm bringing the kids there from the tour. So there's rave reviews. McDonald's is like, I'm #1 on their board. But there was something that he and we just didn't click. But I found out later, or I realized later what it was. And, honestly, like even up until recently, like I was on some Steve Harvey, like when people would be like, and I wouldn't publicly bash anybody, but Steve is somebody when people would bring stuff up, I would be like, he a bit of a a-hole and blah, 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 blah. I wasn't going in depth, I felt, but honestly, I would agree. But now I've changed. I'm older, and I realized this. Steve really loved that Apollo job. He really made that show what it really.
The popularity, I can go listen back and say it was Steve Harvey.
No,
Popularity of the show.
absolutely skyrocketed, and it brought a lot of revenue and a lot of eyes to the show. And he was very proud of that. And he took a lot of pride in it. And people don't know this. Steve didn't leave the show. Steve was let go from the show. He was actually exited from the show, and not because of his talent, of course. He was taken out for a different reason. And the reason I had to find out later, the hard way, a lot of things wind up, there's a trail, and the trail is money. And so they were trying to move him out because they couldn't get to the revenue. So, he's taking up a lot of that budget.
He's Steve Harvey though.
No, and he
Hey.
deserved every bit of it.
Hey,
But what the producers was like, they were like, hey, let's get him out of there. Let's move this kid in here and give him something he's never seen before, which is $10 coming from, impoverished Harlem background. You know what I'm saying? So I had yet to see that kind of money. I say this, Steve saw me as a part of them. And so he treated me like them. You know what I mean? And only way, yeah.
so here's the thing.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge fan of Steve Harvey
Yeah.
because his foundation, the Steve Harvey Foundation, what he does for youth,
Yeah.
my leadership deal.
Yes.
Like, I applaud all of that. I'm a huge fan of that. I've
Mhm.
even done some donations to that.
Yeah.
People don't see that side of Steve because he's not the person that's going to talk about everything he's doing,
No.
right? Like, he's private. He cares about his circle. I'm
Yeah.
not anti-circle. I'm not saying that at all. But like, you see it,
Yeah.
right? When you want to see it, it's there to be seen. So here's the thing. Steve was watching. Tell Steve what you really want to say. Now that you've matured too.
Yeah.
Because Steve was watching.